That goes from Staff Sergeant E6 to Master Sergeant / First Sergeant E8. For the first shoot, up until you become a major, those are the only two you have to worry about. Okay?
Does the promotable status matter at all, sir? So for like a sergeant promotable or
there is a part on this where you can say, yes, this person is promotable, but that only applies if they're holding a duty position that their promotable status will bring them. So if you got a specialist promotable, so to speak, how that would work with points, I don't know. I should max out points at that point. But, new point system, long story. Get into that later. If that person is a team leader, then that would apply. But even for that rank, it really doesn't.
Or like Master Sergeant promotable working as a battalion sergeant major.
Yeah. Something like that could be, yeah.
Or in the
you can have that in there. Yep. Okay. Or in the ops sergeant major, right? Here's the big thing. Administrative data. Okay? This is all the name, social security number, rank, data rank, primary MLS, unit organization, no big deal. Your S1 should be able to help you fill this out, or your battalion SO, your commander, your first sergeant. A great source for help on all this. Every time when I was a platoon leader, if I ever wrote an NCOER, I would go sit down with the first sergeant. Always. Get his or her perspective. And you know what? When I became a company commander and I was writing NCOERs, you know what I went to? Went to the sergeant major. I cannot understate or undervalue how important that relationship is between you as a platoon leader and your first sergeant. I was in my first sergeant's office every single day, soaking up that knowledge, getting his advice, okay? Finding out why he punched cars on battalion runs. He did that. He was a car puncher. He didn't like it when people would drive really fast past company or battalion formation, so he'd jump out in front of them and he'd dent the hood of their car. So if you ever run into Sergeant Major Morgan, and here's the best part, he's a cook. Yeah, but he was a cook from 1st Ranger Battalion, so that's a little different. All right, but okay, so here's all that, okay? The next part here is the authentication. So Raider signs, Senior Raider signs, and then Supplementary Reviewer. Something new with this NCOER is that the Supplementary Reviewer, what was just called the Reviewer back in the day, actually isn't used anymore unless the Senior Raider is a lieutenant. Okay? So in the case where you guys are going to be senior rating team leaders or something like that, or squad leaders, or not team leaders, squad leaders or something like that, what's going to end up happening is that your company commander will be a part of this, okay? Kind of help you out because career's on the line, right? Because that staff sergeant trying to get promoted to sergeant first class, that's the first time where it really, really, really becomes important. Because what ends up happening is that it goes from being a board that's conducted at the battalion level to a centralized board to get selected for sergeant first class, okay? Other than that, there's no reviewer. And then you have the rated individual sign their name, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, this is the NCOER score. This fills it out, okay? Going back to the NCOER, when that individual signs the NCOER, what do they say?
I agree to the administrative information.
Say it louder.
I agree to the administrative information.
That's right. Now all that person is doing, and it's true for the OER as well, that all you are doing is saying the administrative data is right. Okay? My social's right. My name's spelled right. That is my MLS. Okay? All right.
Is it still true that the NCO is the last person to sign it?
That is correct. So it'll go in order. So the order you see from top to bottom is the order that it'll get signed in. Okay? Good point. So here's the NCOER support form, right? The great thing about it is that online there's this great system called the Electronic Evaluation System, EES, that you can access through AKO. I'll show you guys how to do it here. Leave work. Go into AKO. Sign in. Be a perfect time for some elevator music.
Yeah.
Alright, so I just logged into AKO, right? Does anyone have any problem with logging into AKO? Okay, only on Max, yeah, I got it. You guys know how to do it in theory, right?
Yes, sir.
Alright, so here's what you do. You scroll down to the bottom on the right hand side. Army links. Evaluation entry system. I got it wrong. It's not electronic, apparently. Alright? click on that, all of a sudden it'll come in here and it'll say, hey, listen, who are you? You gotta have your CAT card in to be able to access this, all right? And then the computer, the network at large, the wizard on the other side of the curtain will decide whether it believes you or not. You have to agree to some terms. Once you sign your life away, the click of a button, the system will tell you that it's down. Okay, all right, so this will pop up. You can create, edit OERs, NCOERs from here, okay? And you can upload your NCOER support forms as well. And there's all these different tools to help you guys out. All right?
And you can just save it on there, so like.
Yep, actually what you have to do, I mean, I don't know how the uploading works, I've never uploaded before, but I do know this. For all the evaluations, you have to go on, you have to actually work it on this system. You have to actually log in, edit all your stuff, and save it before you go from page to page to page. Okay?
So, isn't there a part for a second, like the senior raters that come in and write in there too?
Yeah.
So both of them can access and
Yes.
edit it?
Everyone who is actually a part of that rating chain can actually view whatever's in their system that pertains to them, okay? And this system is what makes raters and senior raters and the system at large be able to manage that profile, okay? That top block, that certain percent, that 49% that they're allowed to get.
So sir, the change of like writer speed, that's why it's so important.
Yep. Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. What'd you get, Rich?
Asian, sir.
Okay, that's what I figured you're asking. Okay. All right, that's how you get in there, okay? What am I doing? Okay? And what it'll do in that system is it'll limit the amount of text that you can have, okay? So in here, after you get all that, you put in their principal duty title, the daily duties and scope, that'll come out of your battalion S1. Okay, so that is maintained at the battalion level. So even if you want to go in there and say, hey, listen, this person is especially ninja, or some other equally awesome warrior, okay? Samurai, fine, okay? You can't change that because that's control of the battalion level, okay? Let them fill that for you. Good battalion S1s, once you get up to like the platoon sergeant level, will start filling this stuff in for you and creating it for you. At the very least, yours will be created for you because the battalion commander is obviously going to be writing it, or your company commander, battalion commander is going to be writing it, okay? Areas of special emphasis, that is used for helping you out whenever you're typing on the backside, okay? Because what ends up happening here is that if you have an area of special emphasis, say you have command and supply discipline program, you put that in parentheses and you say, hey, listen, I'm gonna mention that from now on as CSDP. So that way on the back of the page, you can just say CSDP, CSDP, instead of using the whole spelled out thing, and you can save yourself some space. You can actually get, you know, more of those wonderful adjectives in there, like awesome sauce or whatever people say now. I don't know, I saw that on people. One of the penguins of Madagascar said. So, okay. And then you have appointed duties. Here's the thing, a lot of young leaders do not do a good job with this. They list appointed duties on there that they think would make this person sound awesome, but legally you're not allowed to put anyone on there that is not actually on order signed by that company commander.
Oh, yeah.
So it actually has to be additional duty orders appointing that person for that rated time, and the company commander has to have those signed. Otherwise you can't put those in there, okay? Can the system check that? No, but you're on your own. And then performance goals, okay? So the cool thing about this is that whenever you fill out this support form, and one of the ways that you can counsel people, other than what you guys did for homework, is to use this form. Okay, when you sit down and talk with that individual, is you can fill out what your performance goals and expectations are, so you both can actually go through and fill this out together. Okay? And you get 16 lines to do it here. And then what the system does, it takes all this extra data up here, and it automatically fills the actual evaluation that this form is supporting, okay? And what you're going to see a lot of, you see here, initialing here, the different dates. So what ends up happening is that the rater is supposed to counsel every quarter, right? So what raters or senior raters can do in the system is go through and look to make sure that you've actually initialed when you've counseled these individuals, and that rated individual has said, yes, I've also been counseled on confirming this, all right? That way people can go in and check. Okay? So make sure you're doing that. Then you go through, and here is one way to do this. I, as a rater, I like to sit down with my rated individual, or the person I'm rating, and I like to fill out this left side together. All these sound familiar? Character, presence, intellect, leads, develops, achieves. This kind of sound familiar? Where'd you guys see those from before? Wow, there's a lot of motivation in this room right now. Someone say things louder so the camera can actually hear you. So Relen actually is doing something.
Support.
What?
Support.
Which support form? We're looking at support.
OER.
The OER support form and the OER. Okay, so we're actually going to have leader attributes that are in line with, the, like I said, the Army Development Model. Okay. On here, look at this. You actually have push-ups, sit-ups, run, height, weight, all that stuff as goals in here. Okay? And then actually what they do. So what you do is you list this out together, what you think your performance objectives should be, and then what you actually accomplish as you go through when you do your quarterly counselings, which is how many months? Every quarter is how many months?
3 months.
I heard 3, I heard 4. Which one is it?
3.
Gosh.
4.
Man, not 4.
4 quarters.
Okay, and you can actually list out what that person's doing. So the great thing about this is this provides you a check sheet to say, hey, listen, this is what this person's accomplishing. So that way, when you come up to evaluate this person, and you're like, wow, I'm a week out from my deadline, I had to crunch this out real quick. You don't have to go back and think of all the things this person's done over 12 months, along with the other people that you're rating. You have a checklist of things that you've been recording together, okay? And this also helps them get a vote. Hey, listen, this awesome thing I did, I'd like this to be a part of it if it makes sense, okay? And you guys can do that together. Make sense? And the senior rater can throw comments in here too. I've never seen it happen. All right. Here's the NCOER for the sergeant, E5. First time this individual's ever probably being evaluated, or one of the first times. So really what we're looking at, considering that the board is a local board, so to get promoted from specialist to sergeant, or sergeant to staff sergeant, the board is held at the battalion level and is done by the battalion sergeant major and all the first sergeants. They stand on the board for all these. You literally come up there, people come up, they report, get asked some questions, they do facing movements, make sure their uniform looks nice, all that kind of good stuff, and they determine whether that person should be promoted or not, okay? So when they made this system, they said, well, why do we have all these different, top one, one out of one, all these different blocks and stuff like that? Because all they really want to know, does this person meet the standard or not? Okay? And why? And you have your comments in here. Now here's the trick. Raters only comment on performance. Senior raters comment on potential. Okay? Raters comment on performance. Senior raters comment on potential. Okay? So when you're saying, hey, this person met standard or didn't, which this isn't controlled, you can have everyone meet standard, right? Because you're trying to help them get promoted, or help, or not. Right? But you include in the narrative to address what this person did. You got to look at it from a different perspective, right? Because it's not just a board looking at this. Does anyone know how long the board actually has to review your file?
A couple minutes.
Seconds.
How many seconds?
30.
Who said 90? Man,
That's a long
if I had a
time.
scratch the sniff sticker, it'd be yours. Well done. So think about that. A centralized board in real life has 90 seconds. Their first time through to be like, promote, do not, maybe, or no. And then the next time, another 30 seconds or so. But literally, so they go through all that paperwork and they have only 90 seconds to decide whether or not you're going to get promoted or not. Crazy, right? That's why the system's being changed to help out with that. So people will say, hey, listen, why don't we have this comment section anyway? Because the board's not going to have time to read a whole bunch of comments, right? They'll read some of them, the more important ones. They'll look at senior rater comments more importantly than anyone else's. But these are also used by other organizations when they're actually trying to figure out who they want to hire. So maybe you want to do some secret squirrel stuff at some point in your life. Maybe your incoming, maybe the battalion commander that you're coming into wants to see what you're about. They can go through and they can read and get some additional perspective on what your experience is, what you've done, what you've accomplished by reading these. And the rest of them can pull those up through the system. Okay?
Sure.
Yes?
When you say that the senior rater, like a platoon leader, company commander, to battalion commander, they rate on potential, like in all actuality, how much are they actually watching the platoon leader to see what potential he has, or are they
We'll-
just
we'll-
basing
we'll
their
get-
stuff off the
We'll
command?
get to that with the officer stuff, we're talking about NCOER right now. So here, so in E5, right, who would the raider be?
Depends.
No, not PL. Squad leader, staff sergeant, who would the senior raider be? Boom. Okay? So you're gonna see that person a great deal.
So yeah, they'll be able to get a lot.
Right, exactly. You would hope so.
Quick question, sir.
Yes.
What is the justification for going away from the original model for the senior rater? Based on potential, right? An individual's potential.
That's raider right there. That's just raider.
Right, but you said the senior raters.
Hold on, sorry. Raiders would change. But I'll show you the senior raider stuff when we get to the back page. So save the question for later. Good question, Jason. Anyone else? Before I cut you off and keep going. Again. Okay. Oop. All right, here's a blow up. You can see of all the different portions here for the administrative data. All right, since we took a lot of time with the branching, we're going to talk about that later. It's got to be your email address. It's got to be your .mil, not your Gmail. Okay, your enterprise one. All right. Duty description as we discussed. Okay. And then all your attributes for your height, weight, and APFT, yes, that goes in there. And then here's another thing too, it's not just that, but it's also, hey, let's talk specifically about that. Consistently scores 270 or above. Runs 5 miles in under 40 minutes consecutively. Looks dumpy in a uniform, just kidding. Okay, but comments about that individual's PT, okay? And if there's any extra stuff that can be in there. So say maybe they don't have this in there, you know, they don't have a pass or something like that, you can add some perspective. Maybe they've got a postpartum profile, okay? Or maybe they're on profile for something else, all right, or whatever. Okay. Army leadership model, right? We already talked about this, everyone knows this. Attributes are what we're basing things off of, okay? Based on our core competencies. So here is what we're going for. What this will do is, what I want you to, I'm not going to go through this right now because I want you guys to go back and use this as a reference. When you guys are actually writing these things, is to go back and you say, hey, listen, from a sergeant, what am I looking for with character? For a sergeant first class, what am I looking for presence? Okay, and this rubric will help give you an idea. So I'd look at that when you're doing your initial counseling. When you're filling out that support form with that individual, hold those side by side and make sure that you're in line, okay, with what makes sense. Because here's the thing. Worst case scenario, if you don't counsel, what does that do? You're not setting your expectations, correct? You're not setting your team up for success. But say there's someone that legitimately doesn't need to be a part of your organization. If you don't counsel them, if you do not set forth those examples, your expectations, if you do not try to set them up for success, you do not provide them with opportunities for training, retraining, and so forth, and you try to give them a relief for cause, which is basically firing them, they can challenge it and win. And the Army will lose if that person actually doesn't belong there. Yeah. So do your diligence. Do your diligence. All right? That's a serious thing. I've made that mistake. And I like, when I hear about that individual, like still going around the Army right now, I'm like, okay? This particular individual was a squad leader and on a night live fire was not paying attention, pointed their weapon at me and cleared it. So even though I had that documented on a counseling form, even though I wrote a relief cause NCOER, because we didn't go through and flag him, he actually got promoted as Sergeant First Class. So you gotta be careful of that stuff, right? Don't worry, he's being taken care of now. Cat more knows. Okay? And the same things for leads, develops, and achieves, all right? So this guy should help you be able to form what you're trying to do. The whole purpose behind this is to set your team up for success, all right? Okay? And then here are the performance measures, all right? For staff sergeants, for sergeant first class. Far exceeded standard, met standard, or did not meet. All right? Here's some of the comments that you would have associated with in a far exceed standard, okay? This is the blocking for the senior rater stuff. So the senior rater still has that ability, okay? for staff sergeant above. Alright. So you only get to the actual picture. Alright. So, like we were talking about for E5, met standard did not meet standard, okay? And then the same thing, so as you go down for each of the different attributes, the person can either have met the standard or not for E5, for sergeant. Okay? So if you got a guy that you're trying to promote, there's no reason why you can't do met standard the whole way across. Okay? That's you saying, hey, listen, you're doing it. You're doing what we want you to do. Alright? And they have 8 lines of text that you put into these comments that are in bullet format. So that's what's similar to the old system. Put a little O, I don't know why O, but that's what the Army does. And you have at least 3 comments, right? If you have less than 3 comments, you're inadvertently telling someone one of 2 things. Either this person didn't do a very good job, or I am a crappy leader and I don't care much about my people. Okay? Then you have an opportunity to talk as a rater about the overall performance after you've gone through these attributes. Okay? So notice that character was on the front page of your 6, and you have the other 5 back here. You have 5 lines of text here that are also in bullet format, and then the senior rater for sergeant actually gets to go through and say, hey, listen, most qualified, highly qualified, qualified, or not qualified. Okay? Let's see if this blows this up for us here. Go back. All of these. All right. So in here, here's what ends up happening, right? This is where a rating profile comes in. A rating profile basically says, hey, listen, you have this many people that you're currently rating, and this enables you to hand out only at the 49% or less most qualified, all right? It's going to be your responsibility. So think about it, you're going to be senior rating people. Who are you going to senior rate as a platoon leader? Squad leaders. Very critical time in their career. Looking at going to the first ever centralized board for promotion to sergeant first class. So you're going to have to make some tough decisions. So you're a platoon leader, right? You have 4 squad leaders potentially, maybe only 3. And you're only allowed to get 49% of them. So think about that. So what happens when you have 1 squad leader, and by the way, they're not all going to come across your desk at the same time, Dave. What's up?
Does the Army consider them to be promoted again, even though, like...
There's different ways to say that, because here's the thing, too. The board understands this concept called immature profiles. Immature profiles basically say, hey, listen, I don't have a whole big pool of people to be able to rate from, so you got to take this most qualified into consideration, right? So say, here's the difference, right? I got you 3, I'm rating you 3. And guess what, Buck? You got the most qualified. Congratulations, you guys did it, right? The fact that you guys didn't says something completely different than if I would have said, hey, listen, I am senior rating everyone in this room, and guess what? You still didn't get it. It says something different, right? And on here, you'll actually see, I currently rate this many NCOs in this grade. So the board will be able to look at that and say, hey, listen, this person's a highly qualified, but he or she's only rating 3 people. Let's look at the comments. So the board will look at the comments and see if the comments are strong. If they are strong comments, then they'll say, okay, this reads like a most qualified. We should invest in this soldier. Make sense? Did I answer your question?
No.
Good.
Basically, what the Army has done is transitioned from a rating of potential to a competitive standard. You are now competing with everybody else in your platoon,
Yes.
and you can be the best of the dirtbags.
Right.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you have potential. Or everybody in the platoon, like as a platoon leader rating staff sergeants going to sergeant first class, I know what a good sergeant first class looks like. You know, I know everyone in my platoon is ready to be promoted to sergeant first class, and that they should be promoted ahead of their peers. But I can't rate them like that.
Sure you
I can't senior rate them.
Sure you can. Because what do you do?
Make comment?
The comments that you just said is how you save people in that.
Those comments were still available with the old rating system of promote ahead of peers, promote now, promote with peers, do not promote.
You're still going to be putting that in there, and you're, you know, hey, listen, potential for promotion. You're still going to say that in your comments, okay? But your blocking is what's going to change.
Yeah, so
I'm curious why the Army has turned it into a competitive standard.
Because it makes it easier for boards to make a decision when they have to make tough cuts.
So.
It's a tough, it is a tough thing. And it's holding leaders accountable. Because what ended up happening is that, yes, and I believe that you probably, when you rated NCOs and things like that, you did, right?
Yes.
You probably did your due diligence. You probably did the right thing. But as a systemic issue in the Army is that we don't always have strong leaders. And what they'll end up doing is they take that opportunity to rate everyone very strong and use fluff. And so what ends up happening is that when times that come up to that promotion board, what you're really doing is you're not competing. I'm not competing with you. What's happening is my senior rater is competing for me based on his ability to write above. Does that make sense? So instead of having writing styles compete at a board, they're trying to devise a different system to have it where people compete. Because who gets promoted? Do you think you get promoted, Buck?
No,
Do you think you get promoted, Brown?
my future self.
What?
My future self?
No. No. People, here's the tough part, team. At a centralized board, people don't get promoted. Your packet does.
That's why I'm going infantry.
All right. Now, hey, what you guys are going to see more. Look at the difference here for staff sergeant and first sergeant, E60, E8. Now you have far exceed, exceed, met standard, and did not meet standard. These are still unrestricted. So you can have everyone still be far exceed standard. So you still have that perspective that you're getting, that flexibility that you want, okay? Understanding what you're saying. But you're still constrained down here. You still have 8 lines, 3 bullets, same kind of stuff, all right? Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
Is anyone not picking this up? Who's, I don't like it when only the ADO people are nodding. That's not good. Do you understand what's going on?
Not really, sir.
Okay, good. Tell me. Talk to me. What are you missing? Okay, so here, Sergeant, E5, right? What happens is that since they're, okay, so when they go to a board, they get promoted to staff sergeant. What ends up happening is that they only go to the battalion level. The sergeant major and the first sergeants in the battalion, they're the ones that decide, yes, guess what, you're gonna get promoted or not, okay? So what a lot of that is if a first sergeant from a company recommends someone for the board, that's that first sergeant's word saying, hey, listen, this person's ready to get promoted. Now, if they freeze up on the board, they shake or, do whatever else, they pass out, just happens. That's something else. But a lot of it is based on the word of that senior NCO in that company, whether or not the person is ready or not. So the Army recognized that and said, hey, listen, let's just take that off the board, take all that off and say, do they meet the standard or not? Okay? So what ends up happening is for staff sergeant to master sergeant, because it goes to a DA centralized board, just like all yours will, means it goes all the way up to big Army, and they have all the packets for all the people that are eligible based on time and grade, time of service, all that kind of good stuff. Time and grade. Then they go through and they do those evaluations. And what this is trying to do is arm that board with as much information as possible to make an informed decision and be able to manage the talent of the Army more effectively.
So,
Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
getting those there.
Okay, what's up?
Some question. So this is for regular Army. What about National Guard? and
Yes.
This
Same.
is also same.
Yep, absolutely same. Okay, absolutely same.
Sir, with this new style of OERs and stuff like that, you said that there was only 30 to 90 seconds of people getting to review your packet, but with this new style, is there more time?
Nope.
Or do we just put in?
Nope, this is helping them make a more informed decision in that 90 seconds.
But we put in all this extra work to make this look so much more detailed, and still get only 90 seconds.
But guess what? An informed person who's got, because you're talking sergeants majors, colonels, lieutenant colonels sitting on these boards, they've seen the evaluations like this a whole lot, and they'll be able to read through this, and they'll say, hey, listen, where is this person at? Okay, I think this is this kind of evaluation.
We can skip work.
Yes, absolutely. Because what else is happening is that we are giving since raters are only doing performance and senior raters are doing potential, they can answer that question very quickly. So why do people get promoted?
Potential.
So what is the board going to pay more attention to?
Teachers.
So senior rater comments, that's right. So all this is great and wonderful for organizations that are gonna go through and read your evaluation later on to get a better perspective on you. But the board is more concerned with this. One interesting thing that this also enables is that, say there's a disconnect between what the rater and the senior rater are saying. Say, met standards across the board, and then all of a sudden the senior rater is saying most qualified. That's gonna make the board member look at that evaluation when they're looking for promotion, and they're gonna say, wait, hold on, what's going on here, something's weird. And they will have an opportunity to provide more scrutiny. Whereas, if you have 4 out of the 6 or 5 out of the 6 far exceeds standards, and then most qualified, that's a clear message to that board member. Yep, that is someone recommending this person for promotion, clearly. They don't need to scrutinize a little bit more. Are we getting there? You can say no, man, I'm here for you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. All right. I think he's full of crap, but I will take as much time as you need. If you want to come sit down and stuff like that and talk about this more, ask questions, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. Anyway, yes.
So are the senior raters and raters and vice versa able to see what each other?
Yes. Absolutely. At any time.
So if you feel like none of the people that you're rating are most qualified,
Yep.
do you have to put most
Nope.
No, you don't.
That's another thing too. So again, yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's like you don't deserve it.
Here's another thing too.
None of you.
Hey, listen up. So senior raters will very generally not put most qualified to equal right at that 49%. You know why? They always want to give themselves a buffer. For 2 reasons. One, you get in a lot of trouble now, like letter of reprimand in trouble now, if you actually go outside your profile and you go over that 49% for one. Two, people are concerned about, hey, listen, what if I forgot about someone? Someone's leaving all of a sudden. Someone all of a sudden got PCS orders, and I really want to take care of this individual. They want to have that one most qualified in their back pocket to be able to take care of someone. Okay?
So hypothetically, in a small unit, I might only be rating 2 individuals. Then neither one of them can be most qualified. Correct?
Yeah, with one exception. In a brand new profile, so the first time that you ever senior rate anyone, Jason, what'll end up happening is that the Army gives you a grace period. They say, hey, listen, for pretend, we're gonna say that you've already distributed 3 highly qualified. Meaning that your first evaluation, if you want, can be a most qualified. Or not. Okay? But think about what happens. If you do end up doing that, you have that most qualified right off the bat, that means you're guaranteeing that the next 3 people, 2, 3, math, will not get it, okay? So think about that. You gotta be careful in how you're counseling, because think that message that you're sending, right? Hey, listen, what if that NCO finds out that you've already given out your most qualified? How do you motivate that person? So you gotta be really careful with that, right?
Maybe you've gone over this, sir. Can the platoon leader be a senior rater?
Yes.
So we could potentially get to our unit and be senior rating squad leaders right away if
Yes.
if it's annual
Yes.
or PCS.
It won't be an annual. Oh yeah, it could be an annual, but here's the thing.
We know nothing.
No. Here's the thing, okay? And we're gonna get into this a little bit later. Oh man, stuff's way too important. Okay, what's gonna end up happening is that there's a bunch of different reasons why you can write evaluations. When someone is departing a unit, you have different options of why you would receive an evaluation, right? So say maybe you want to take care of your people because you have a better perspective on them. You can do something as a rater called a change of rater, NCOER, right? Or OER. The senior rater has that same thing. It's called a senior rater option. So an exiting battalion commander who really wants to take care of his platoon leaders, XOs, company commanders, whatever, but platoon leaders, stuff like that, he can actually go through, or she can actually go through and say, hey, listen, I'm initiating evaluations across the board for all the officers because I'm taking my senior rater option, which means I have at least 3 months rating now, but less than 12 months, but I want to take care of them. Okay? Ideally, you should come in and have to not rate anyone for at least the first 8 months. Ideally. Is that going to happen? No. Because most lieutenants don't understand the system very well. Okay? and some company commanders aren't necessarily looking out for it. But
So I have a question about the timing, so.
hopefully I have an answer about the timing.
I'm confused about the timing, so is it because it's within a year period? So what if people are due for NCOERs at different times?
Okay,
So
right.
how does that?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? As a rater, so you're supposed to get an evaluation, I should start out with this, my apologies, every 12 months, every year. Annual evaluation, okay? NCOER, OER, whatever. There's a bunch of different reasons why you would do it otherwise. Senior rater option, change of rater, complete the record for the board or things like that. So what ends up what should happen as a rater, as that person that you're replacing, so that platoon leader comes out, he or she should do a change of rater for everyone, and you won't have to rate anyone for 12 months, okay? If they do the same thing for a senior rater option, that may or may not happen. The option that they have, though, that they should do, which I can, 95% say is not gonna happen, is that if they don't choose that senior rater option, they should do something that's called a letter of continuity. Do it in memorandum format and say, hey, listen, this is the great thing that this person has done in that time, okay? Another option is that they say, hey, listen, here's a printed off support form that we've been using and they've been updating. That's probably 85% not gonna happen.
So but how does it work for your percentage? If you got different NCOERs, like, is there a cutoff? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Is there a cutoff date for my percentage? So what if, like,
Is it fiscal
Yes.
year, you're saying?
No, it's not fiscal year. It's based on who's in the system. So when you go into the system, the S1 for the battalion actually updates the rating scheme and stuff like that. All of a sudden, bam, I've got these 4 people, and that's what I have.
okay.
But it's the number of evaluations that you've given is the percentage.
Oh,
So
okay.
as you give one, it says, hey, listen, you've given this many highly
Oh,
qualified.
gotcha, okay.
You've given this many most qualified, and that's what your percentage actually pertains to. Can I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Great, finally answered one. Farley?
No, sir, I had the same question, I'm not really understanding the answer.
Okay, how about this? Let's see if you can actually answer the question, bud.
So what he's saying is that if you get to your unit and hopefully the person who you're replacing do, basically like a closeout for those leaders, and you can start at a fresh start. So, but if they don't, then you're gonna have NCOERs due at different times, but what you need to do is basically, the system he's saying is gonna keep track of how many you've given or how many you can give. So even though if you give them to them at different times, you still need to be aware of like that 49%, because like the amount of people you're gonna counsel is not gonna change.
Yeah, so for example, you're exactly right. So here for example, say I'm rating these 3 people, right? And I don't have them most qualified to give. What I can't do is say, hey, listen, populate my profile with a bunch of people that I'm going to rate. So I can't say, hey, listen, bring me all these people, and put them in my profile. Because what it calculates against what I've actually given. So the timing of it is actually very important. So what's going to end up happening is that you'll see some raters, and some senior raters, and you'll see people that are actually put in this. You'll probably be in the same perspective where I'm going to say, hey, listen, I want to give you a most qualified, but I need one more highly qualified in order to be able to do that. So I might hold on to your NCOER past its through date. I've got 90 days after the through date before it has to be submitted to HQDA, so I might hold on to it for a while. Hold on to it until your evaluation comes up. And I give you a highly qualified, and then all of a sudden I can drop yours as a most qualified. Answer your question.
A little bit.
What do you know? What am I missing, bud?
It's just new, sir, plus like I just found out my plan for the next few years. Just being honest.
I don't even know.
Shouldn't have told you to. All right, hey, listen. If you're able to put your hand on it and say, yep, it's warm, I understand just a little bit if you kind of get some sort of entrance. When you guys get down, you actually do this, you talk to your first sergeant, you talk to your platoon sergeant, talk to your company commander and your XO. What's going to happen is they're going to be able to help you put this in more perspective. Hopefully at that time, you'll be able to jog your memory. Like, okay, now I kind of remember what Captain Warren's talking about. Or just call me up and say, hey, sir, I need some help. Send me the evaluation, we'll sit there, and I'll talk to you about it on the phone while we work it out together. I've done this with some people that have come out of the program, okay? So something to think about, all right? I used to be a battalion S1 for 6 months. For the AG people, it was awesome. Okay? I learned a lot.
Eventually.
All the males gathering. All the males, yeah.
Okay, all right. Don't worry about the sergeant major one. Okay, so less than 50%, right? Not 50%, 49%. Less than 50%, right? Because you'll hear people say 50%. That's the most qualified. Okay? Right? 5 lines, and then you have successive duty titles, okay? So successive, meaning not, hey, listen, this person will be a great squad leader, or another, you know, a great staff sergeant in this position, a great staff sergeant there. It's, hey, listen, this person would be a great staff sergeant, a great squad leader, and then a great platoon sergeant. Okay, so successive. That make sense? Please tell me at least everyone understands that, right? Okay. And then they have one additional one, which is a broadening assignment. What is a broadening assignment? I'll give you a hint. It's what I'm doing right now. Okay, right. So it's something that is not in line with your direct MOS or your branch for us. Okay? So say, for example, just like you said, Brown, maybe one of your soldiers is a staff sergeant. They're like, you know what, this person would be a great drill sergeant. Put him in for a duty time, for that broadening assignment, right? Or recruiting, or something like that, okay?
That's cool.
Okay? Remember, this is what I'm talking about, currently rate, all right? I'm trying to hurry along here so I can get you out of here, but get you guys the information you need. Check on one of you guys are geniuses. Okay? Now here, this is what's going to help us, all right? So we're going to go over the OER now, and this, I hope, well, I do every day what Hulk Hogan always recommended, which is eat my vegetables and say my prayers, that this is actually going to give you guys, solidify what we talked about, okay? The officer evaluation report. Now there are 4 different types of officer evaluation reports, okay? The only one that you guys need to worry about is company grade for the first 10 years of your officer career. That's it. All right? Don't worry about the others. What we're trying to do here, we got a Raider profile, okay? So here's what gets really interesting, is that your company commanders will have a profile for his platoon, his or her platoon leaders. So that 1 to 4 thing, that as a Raider of NCOs, so like for your platoon sergeant, you didn't have to worry about, you have to worry about as platoon leaders now. That's a huge difference. When I was a platoon leader, when I was a company commander, actually I've never actually used this system for the NCOERs yet. Because actually the last NCOR I wrote as a senior Raider was for Sergeant Taggio, and was still using the old system. This system actually just came into effect at the end of October. Okay, that's how new it is. So, fresh start. Just like the other guys, right? Fresh start. You guys don't watch movies? Don't have time, huh? Okay. The big purpose. Rating chain accountability. The Army and boards are tired of fluff. Okay? They're tired of fluff. They want a real perspective on people. Okay? The difference is that, what's going to happen is your most qualified, highly qualified, that still exists for the senior raters, but it's called something a little bit different for the Raider. Okay? The big one is excels. All right? Remember we were talking about you still have that 3 credit for proficient. So it goes excels, proficient. Okay? Bottom line is, as an officer, if you don't at least have a proficient, if you have one of the other 2 that are below it, seek life elsewhere. That's what that evaluation is saying. Seek life elsewhere. Okay? Make sense? If you're confused, I'm screwed. We good? Okay. You don't sound confident. I don't like that. Okay. Here's some senior Raider philosophy, right? What they're trying to do is make sure that you identify your best and you help your best get promoted. Okay? Counseling, make sure that, member aid to go through. You actually have to initial in the electronic system or the evaluation entry system, making sure that you're actually counseling your subordinates and things like that, all right? Connect committee takes that as a big deal. Brigade commander sends me an email sends me a note. Hey, you haven't counseled your subordinates yet. And I'd be like, yes I have, I just forgot to. Oh, there it is. Hey, sir, update, refresh your page. It's good. I'm always on time. Right? Here it is. The one you have to worry about, the company grade. Same thing, right? Looks really familiar. Admin, authentication with the signatures and things like that, okay? Duty description, performance evaluation, okay? First part here that you're gonna see, team, is the APFT. Let's see if this actually gets blown up. Okay, great. All right? So you're gonna have to go backward. Your APFT. So guess what? As officers, in the past, your APFT score actually wasn't put on your evaluation anymore. Ever. So now guess what?
Boom.
Being fat and happy is no longer worthy of being an officer. Okay? So Big Mac, double Big Mac Wednesdays can no longer be a part of your weekly battle. Okay? All right, so it gets mentioned over here, okay? They can actually put some stuff in here about, consistently gets over 300, something like that, all right? If nothing is put in there, chances are your PT isn't that good. And that's gonna say something to the board.
Or your score speaks for itself.
Oh, you don't put your score, okay, you don't actually put your score in there, you get the height, weight, and all that kind of stuff, but if you actually don't enter it in there,
Oh.
Okay.
then yes, it speaks for itself there.
Cause like the OER survey, you can put, like, I know.
That is the OER.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, it's OER, when I had done certain events, it was annotated in there, like, I run this amount of races,
Yeah.
I done this.
Yeah, so like my evaluation that Colonel Williams actually did for me, I was like, hey sir, by the way, I ran my first marathon ever. Guess what was on my evaluation? Not that.
Believe it.
It's still their choice, but it's worth mentioning, okay? In my support form, I put it in there like, hey, listen, I'm gonna do my first marathon ever, okay? And he was like, I do marathons all the time, so. Okay? Right? Okay? So hopefully your Ironman will actually work out.
Good OER.
Then. Exactly. Okay. Then the rated officer again goes through and actually rates just performance, okay? And here's that block check. Make sure everyone can see it. You see?
For the most part, sir.
Get somewhere you can see, man. You can move that chair right there. You're all right.